Good morning, gang. First thing I'd like to say is thank you for viewing my channel. Please subscribe and hit that like button for me, especially if you like the content. Don't have to necessarily disagree with me, but it gives us something to talk about and something to think about. I really do appreciate your support. So today I'm going to talk about one of my favorite subjects, okay? There are so many people, and I see more women post this than men, but it's really both sexes. So I want to tackle this because I think we're missing an important point about the truth about relationships. And I seen one this morning, okay, and it said this: if a man truly loves you, he will change for you. Bullshit. Plain and simple. Listen, there are some things that are just absolutely constant, and you can call them a universal truth, you can call them the consistencies in your life, but there are some things that just are, kind of like gravity. You know, everybody experiences gravity. So, you know, we have this truth versus reality thing where people talk, well, my reality, what they're really saying is my experience, and reality is really a crappy word to use for that, okay? That's another show, and I'll get to that. But there are certain things we all experience equally. You know, things like gravity, sadness, depression, the sun, heat, cold. There are just things that are, they're not a variable. Okay, so when I approach something, I like to look at what are the variables and what are the constants. Now, one thing about mankind, people in general, is people don't really change. They might grow and evolve, okay, but the inner core of who they are is kind of who they are, and I'll get to that in a minute. But listen, if you're in a relationship where you believe someone needs to change for that relationship to be good, as I said in my first test run video, you simply got the wrong person. Now let me explain that. You can have, let's just say, a Ferrari, and it looks great. Now, you're styling and profiling with it, but what if it's got the engine of like a Chevy Cobalt? It's just not going to do what you think. But yet, a lot of you all will pay for that and continue to support that car when it has a certain mystique about it, but it's really not a sports car. That's just plain and simple, okay? Now I say that because of this. Most of you people who post that stuff, you're in love not with the person, but an image. And most of the time, an image you yourself is projected on that person. Listen, if a person is consistently a bum or, you know, just pretty much useless or maybe abusive, and you're sitting there thinking, well, he can love me enough to change, or she can love me enough to change, you're just kidding yourself. What you've really done is you've either fell in love with how the person looks and you're trying to change that engine in that Ferrari, something high performance, which isn't going to happen because you don't have that ability. Or you've fallen in love with this mental, social, and, lack of a better word, spiritual image you've projected on this person that's not really them at all. If someone has to change for you, you simply got the wrong person, and we talked about that before. But I want to go a little deeper into it because I see this all the time. Listen, people, you can think all you want and what you want about a person. That doesn't make them that person. And I'm going to use this reference a lot, so y'all hang in there. Those of you who have seen my videos on Facebook will know this. There were a lot of people who projected a good image on Hitler, right? It make him a good guy. Now, here's something you need to think about. Are you falling in love with just the way a person looks or the way you think they are? Because the moment you start to think that person needs to change for your relationship to be successful, you just need to get the hell out. But let's take that a step further. I know some people who have been together for years, and I'm talking about like a long time, over 10 years, which is rare these days, right? But they've grown apart, mostly because they just have different goals, or one or both don't have any ambition at all, or their only ambition in life is to be miserable. And I see that a lot. That's another show. But listen, these people hang on to what used to be, and the person that they fell in love with isn't even the person they're looking in the eye anymore. It's totally someone else. Not because the inner core of that person has changed, but because directions in life have changed. Because we are the result, whether you like this or not, we are the result of our ambitions and our decisions. Now listen, I say this from experience because I've been there. If you think for 2 seconds you can change a man or a woman, and that makes the relationship work, you're just in denial. And let me tell you this, I don't think a lot of you have thought about this. Let's just say for an instance, maybe you could change them into the person that you want them to be. Hell, that person may not even like you. You ever thought about that? I mean, they'd like you now for whatever reason. Usually, if the relationship's not working, they know it's not working. They, deep down inside, they do. So maybe they're just using you. Or maybe you're just using them. That's possible. You need to think about that. But once that person did change, that person may not even like you at all. They might look for something better. Someone they can change into something they want. Because I'm going to tell you, who and what you are is what you do. Don't kid yourself. If someone is always complaining, they're miserable with their lives. And I'm going to say this, and for those of you who follow me on Facebook, you've heard this before. I cannot give you $1 million. I might want to, but I simply can't because I don't have $1 million. Someone cannot give you something they do not have. So if you're looking for traits in a person, which is mostly what those posts are about, you just picked the wrong person. It's really that simple. And it's best to cut ties right away. It's the moment you realize that. Get your sock and your shoe and get the hell out. And begin to look for the person you really want. And listen, am I advocating divorce? Absolutely not. You can work on things. There's this thing called compromise. And I don't think compromise has to be a long, drawn-out negotiation. I think once you know where your boundaries are and your partner knows where their boundaries are, you can begin from there to make the two ends meet. And if not, part ways. By all means, because I'm going to tell you something. And I'm going to get just a little bit theological on you here in a minute. Not all marriages today, if you're Christian, not all marriages today, in my opinion, are recognized by God. Now, how can I say that? People, well, I got a piece of paper. Well, do you know that marriage license didn't even come into existence really until I think it was the 1920s. Somebody fact check that for me, okay? But basically the reason for those were to keep blacks and whites from intermarrying. That's what it was for. And most people don't realize that. Before that, all you had to do was put a marriage date in a family Bible, usually, or some kind of record, or a few witnesses for the Census Bureau, and then it was counted as a legal marriage. Most of y'all don't know that. Y'all just think, that Abraham and Sarah went down to the local courthouse there and got married. No, that's not how it worked. As a matter of fact, the modern marriages and the way that the ceremonies are held today are very much pagan. And maybe that'll be another show. I don't know. But what I want to tell you is, for those of you who are Christian, go to the book of Ezra. The last 2 chapters are dedicated entirely to a whole set of people, the tribe of Benjamin, who had married outside of the faith, outside of the camp of Judaism, and God didn't recognize them at all. He said, look, gather up all these wives and their children and send them out. Get rid of them. Obviously, God didn't recognize that marriage. So listen, there's some of you all who running around who've got a piece of paper that means exactly and precisely squat. And your relationships are starting to show that and starting to prove that to be true. I want you to think about that for a minute too. So anyway, it takes a lot of self-examination, and you don't even have to really know what your goals are. Okay, like some people are like, well, I've got to know exactly what I want in life, and I've got to figure me out to figure out this relationship. No, you just don't. All you need to know is that A, you need that person to change. Get out. B, you're miserable all the time and complaining. Get out. C, I want you to think about this big time. You're looking for something in them you're not seeing. Get out. And I don't care what you think about a person. It doesn't matter what you think about a person. It doesn't matter what you project on a person or what you wish them to be. They are what they do. Period. And it's like me. I can tell you that I'm an auto mechanic, which I'm not. But I can tell everybody I'm an auto mechanic. Well, can I work on cars? Well, yeah. But I'm not a mechanic by any stretch of imagination. I can change alternators and, tires, put new batteries in, ball joints, simple stuff like that. But actually being a mechanic, I'm just not. But I can appear to be. When you see me put new tie rod ends on the front end of a car, that don't make me a mechanic. It just means I worked on the car, okay? So, I can tell you that, but if every day I go out and I build houses, I'm a carpenter, okay? Because you are what you do, not what you say. You are what you do. Think about that, people. People are what they do. And if they're doing things that's unpleasing to you and making you miserable, get out. You got the wrong person. Think about it. Examine your relationships. This time is short. I love you all. Peace.